YouTube, what's good? Welcome back to another post commentary. Today, let's have an open conversation about conditional finality. You read the title. I'm basically worried that the exotic is going to get nerfed. I mean, this shotgun has skyrocketed in popularity. I remember seeing the days where people were just completely ignoring it, and then it caught fire. Everyone's like, wait, this shotgun's actually really good at countering bubbles, wells, and it has really good one-hit kill ranges. Not only that, the handling is just superb. So last week in Anomaly, Trials of Osiris, normally we have some busted weapons at the number 1, 2, and 3, whether it's Immortal or Cloud Strike. You know the deal. They're getting nerfed already. They're too good. But surprise, surprise, here on Anomaly, Conditional Finality was actually the number 1 weapon with the most kills. And even if it wasn't number 1, I can tell you firsthand that I've seen this weapon in the top 10 several weekends already, consistently making that top 10. So I'm worried. I keep seeing the gun go from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7 to 6, 5. I'm like, yo, conditional. Shh, calm down, stay down, don't let them see you, because we have a track record here with Bungie. They like to nerf things when they get too popular, right? And then they don't do the nerfs in a fair way, or they just take too long to nerf certain weapons that really should have been nerfed right off the bat, like Immortal Lorentz Driver, right? So I would hope that many of you are in the same boat as me that would be pretty sad if this shotgun gets a nerf, because I can't really see an angle where the shotgun is too much. Perhaps the ability to counter the Bubble Titan and the Well Warlock is a little bit too much for a shotgun special weapon, but let's be honest, what other tricks would you pull off to try to counter those supers? Otherwise, they're just unbeatable. If I don't have a conditional or a Wither Horde, I really can't tell you that there's any way for me to counter a Will of Radiance. They feel absolutely broken, but that's a conversation for a different day, a different topic. Today, we're talking about conditional finality. We're going to actually back up why I'm kind of worried, and this is my reach, my attempt to make sure that this weapon continues to stay the way it is and only just improve in terms of a catalyst and obviously getting some sick ornaments in the future. So let's go ahead and direct our attention to a Reddit post where they had a developer, Mecules, have a conversation about, PvP and PvE updates in regards to the sandbox. So I'll go ahead and read to you. So they go ahead and ask the question, what metrics do you use to determine what is strongest in PvP? Their answer is, we use a bunch of metrics. There's no single metric to say something is the strongest. If they only used KOE, which is kills over expected, then Sweet Business would be considered the strongest weapon in PvP at the moment, which is quite funny. Next, community feedback, playtest data, and feedback, personal experiences playing the live game. If you're a player like me and you read this, you probably giggle a little bit because you're like, yeah, that doesn't sound true. It doesn't feel like our feedback really is at the top of the priority list compared to something like their graphs. Otherwise, we would feel like, okay, they nerfed Immortal and Lorentz Driver back when it was OP, of course, immediately thanks to our feedback. No, they just kind of pay attention to the charts too much, to the data, and then they take into account community feedback. But I mean, it's a factor. Next, usage. It is a tool that they use, but it is far from the only tool. It is one of the lower tools comparatively, but it has to be acknowledged because it is the metric that is most visible to players, a good indicator of how often players experience the thing in the game. And by thing in the game, we're talking about things like Immortal right now in this current meta. It is just so popular, it's everywhere, and it's just dominating everything. Another good example would be Lorentz Driver back when it was in its prime, and now recently it's Cloud Strike, which is getting a hot nerf if we continue reading. Next is an interesting one to me that I am happy to read and just kind of understand how their brains work when it comes to just adjusting weapons in the sandbox, and that's net fun. How much fun the person using the weapon is having versus how little fun the person dying to the thing is having. Net fun is not linear. It ratchets down exponentially as usage increases. Cloud Strike uses an example where it wasn't so bad before when it was rare to experience, but now that it is everywhere, the net fun has shifted to be negative overall. And this is exactly what I'm worried about when it comes to the conditional finality. It started off as rare. Many of us were completely in love. We loved seeing the shotgun so much, right? I was excited that someone else was using it too. I was like, yeah, dude, welcome to the club. And now that popularity has skyrocketed and will continue to skyrocket, I feel like the net fun is going to shift to be negative, as you have to understand when it comes to the Destiny 2 community and PvP, overall, I feel like I can bet that these people hate shotguns in the game. So why would conditional finality be, you know, something different? Oh man, I hope that conditional doesn't get nerfed. Anyways, it is interesting to get an insight of what they consider to be net fun and how they use this data to determine how to like adjust weapons in the game. Next, they go ahead and say, when usage is low, weapon effectiveness is highly variable because high-skilled players using the weapon in niche builds will boost the KOE. But as more players start using the gun and the average skill of the user comes down, it should bring the performance of the gun down so that it normalizes. If it does not come down, then it is an indicator that the weapon is too strong. So a good example, of course, is Immortal. People are using Immortal a bunch, and even though there's high-skilled players using it, making the gun seem really OP, the average skill player obviously is bringing those kills down, that KD down, the stats or whatever determined with Immortal back down to being normal, but it's not coming down. It still seems like it's really busted, so that is kind of implying that not only the top players but also the average players are just playing like crackheads using Immortal. So it's an indicator that obviously that weapon is just too much right now. The last thing here that they mention is kills over expected is very useful because it graphs things out in a nice, easy to see slope. So here they're trying to explain to us what KOE even is. They also say, makes it easy to chart a line and say, this thing sees more usage than this other thing, and yet the effectiveness is way higher. Either this thing needs a buff or this thing needs a nerf. Now we understand the way the devs think whenever they buff and nerf weapons inside a PvP, so here is where I ask you the question, do you think conditional finality deserves a nerf? We could take a look at past examples like Lorentz Driver. The usage was higher than something like a sniper rifle, and it was even more effective than the sniper. I mean, really, why would you use the sniper rifles when Lorentz Driver could do the same job, but even better and even easier? Another example would be the Lord of Wolves, an incredibly powerful shotgun. The usage was higher than something like a regular shotgun and even a slug shotgun, and it was even more effective. So why would you use those weapons when Lord of Wolves could be a slug or a regular shotgun and be so easy with so much ammo? Right? A recent example, the Cloud Strike. The usage is really high with Cloud Strike compared to something like Beloved, right? Why would you use the Beloved when you can use the exotic sniper rifle that can get you collats, right? It's just really effective, I get it. But to its defense, I feel like Cloud Strike had some drawbacks, right? It had the higher zoom, so the flinch felt more intense. And then it also has the archetype, which doesn't allow it to two-shot body players inside a Crucible. So if you were going to land the shot, it better be a headshot, otherwise that other player is not really going to feel that, right? So here we are with conditional finality, right? Let's take into account the usage, right? The kills over expected. Its usage is higher than like probably a normal shotgun right now, like a Matador, and it's even more effective because a Matador can't kill well or a bubble, for example. What about the net fun? Are people hating seeing the conditional finality? I mean, to be honest, I haven't been triggered whatsoever seeing a conditional finality. It does take me to surprise sometimes if I'm sitting in someone's bubble or a well and then it just flies in and freezes you off of it, but it's like, hey, fair, right? I mean, I'm on a broken super that's meant to just give me a guaranteed win, fair. So how do you feel, right? If you're a top player, if you're an average player, I know when you go down the skill gap a little bit, down the skill bracket, people tend to be a little bit more frustrated with popular weapons and shotguns, of course. Do you find the conditional finality freezing capabilities to be too much? Is there something about the fact that it can shut down a wall bubble that you find to be just kind of OP? Really? I mean, there's no other shotgun that can do that, and other weapons can only wish to be able to replicate the same thing. The only exotic I can think that gets quite close to do the same effect as the conditional finality is a Wither Horde. Now you get 2 shots, it's a grenade launcher, you throw it in the pool, if you stick them, it's a guaranteed kill, but if you land it on their feet, I mean, then it's kind of sus, right? So if the weapon were to get nerfed, there's only 1 or 2 things I can see happening. They increase the pellet spread so that you can't like map players from further ranges, or they change the exotic perk and make it more strict, where you have to hit even more pellets to experience a free shot or an ignite shot, which honestly, if that happened, I wouldn't be too upset about it, but I feel like right now the shotgun is kind of like in a perfect spot. It doesn't seem too easy, but not too hard, to the point where like if you do get that free shot or that ignite shot, you feel good. It's like, yeah, man, I hit majority of my pellets. I was right on target. And then of course you get the one-shot kill, which is nice because shotguns, at least in that archetype with that range that it has, can be a little bit inconsistent at times. It doesn't have things like opening shot to make it extremely accurate. So those are my 2 cents. I love the shotgun too much. I've used it in my comp videos several times. I made a video dedicated to it as a montage. I mean, yeah, if you haven't seen that, you should. I love the shotgun so much. It's kind of like a little love song to it. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate the open conversation. I'm going to be reading the comments down below. Maybe I can, feel safe and not worry about the shotgun, because right now I'm a little bit worried. This is one of those weapons I have in my inventory all the time and I use it for fun here and there. I'll catch you later. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.